Hello, I'm Simon and I'm a designer with a confession. It annoys me when Google changes their logo. I hate it when Facebook changes the layout of their news feed. I'm not very keen on the new Skype layout, and when Apple removed all of the ports from their latest laptop. Today we're going to talk about how not to freak out your users when you change things. This is Blog Talk. A lot of users don't like change and they can be quite vocal about it, so it can be dangerous to change something that your customers are already used to. It might be useful to understand what's going on in the user's head to trigger this reaction. Why is it that some people get worked up about something not being the way that they're used to? You wouldn't want to wear the same clothes or eat the same food every day. In the case of a website, you might think that it's just because you've gotten used to the way that something works and now you have to relearn it all over again, and that could be part of it. But your reaction to a change in your favourite website is rarely as pragmatic as that. You don't think to yourself, oh great, they've changed Facebook, it was about time for a change, now let's see if they've improved my user experience. It's usually more along the lines of, where have they put the... That's it, I'm using Google again. Of course, 2 weeks later you're no doubt happy with the new layout and you probably can't even remember how it looked before. So why? Do you want to know the interesting thing? Living organisms are programmed to fear things that are unfamiliar. In the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, he talks about... When are you going on about that book in episode 1? I'm a slow reader. Anyway, in the book Daniel talks about the work of psychologist Robert Zajonc. Robert looks at the effect of repeated exposure to arbitrary stimulus. He explored what he called the stimulus effect, which not only showed that the more that you're exposed to something, the more comfortable you are with it. It showed that your reaction to something new is actually fear and distress. And it's not just humans that have this reaction, it seems to be a trait that's shared with most living organisms. He talks about a study where 2 sets of fertile eggs were exposed to different tones. After they'd hatched, the chicks consistently emitted fewer distress calls when they were exposed to the tone that they'd heard when they were inhabiting the shell. If you introduce a big change to something that your customers are already familiar with, you risk not only annoying them, you could potentially at some level be triggering the reaction of fear and distress. Probably not something that you're aiming for. So what can we do about this? You can't just stop changing and improving your UI. Your business needs to grow and evolve, so you need to approach UX very carefully. Here are some things that might help. Introduce change gradually. If you have a new design for a messaging app, for example, you might be able to get away with introducing small changes over a number of weeks. This is something that Facebook does. You might notice that something very insignificant has changed. Since when did the comment box have round corners? But it's not big enough to trigger that rage reaction. Allow users to opt into a new design. My bank did this recently. They introduced a big button at the top of the screen that said something along the lines of, "We're changing the way the website looks soon. If you want to see the new design, click the button." Users that click on this button are then shown the new UI until they decide to click on the button that takes them back to the old one, or that they forget that it's a new design altogether. If they do click the button that takes them back to the old UI, at least they're in for less of a shock when the new layout is rolled out. Usability testing. This is the most important one. You should be doing usability testing on a regular basis anyway. If you aren't currently getting feedback from your users, you're missing a vital piece of information that you need when developing a UI or design. What do my users want and like? When changing a UI that has existing users, you can ask them for feedback in return for a perk, a prize, or maybe even payment. Just sit down with your users and ask them to carry out the tasks that they most commonly do. You might not even ask them to do something that relates to the change that you're specifically testing. If your testers don't actually use the feature that you're changing, is it worth keeping? Ask them to speak aloud their thoughts, record the screen, record their facial expressions. There are loads of online services that can help you with this. The evidence and information that you gather will highlight any "what's going on here" moments, and you'll be able to think about your rollout approach off the back of this. So in summary, you can't really stop changing your UI or your website, but when you do, you should be a little bit careful about it. That's it. If you've got any questions or comments, or if you've got a project that you'd like to talk to us about, you'll find contact details in the description. Thanks for watching, don't scare your users, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.